I'm Ken Fjord. Last year, I wrote a book for my son entitled The Graysonian Ethic, Lessons for My Unborn Son, in the months before he was born. Once he was born, I published the book on Amazon. He's now a happy bouncing baby, and I've decided to release the audiobook version for free on YouTube. Think ahead. In some ways, I think that the world has taken the phrase, carpe diem, well past its logical conclusion and into something almost scary. So, for those kids who are about to be born, I just need to remind you that humans live for a very long time. A lot of people live to be 100 years old, and the decisions that you make early have such an incredible impact on how the rest of the years of your life go. Every age has the people who claim you can do it fast or take shortcuts. Get rich quick is a phrase whose etymology goes back to 1891, but the concept goes back much further. The word shortcut in the English language was used as early as 1580. And many philosophies from long before that warn of the idea that you can gain something without putting the time and effort in. Fact is, it takes 10 years to get 10 years of experience. It takes 10 years to have a 10-year marriage. It takes 10 years to age a child by 10 years. It takes 10 years to accumulate 10 years worth of savings. Some things just take time, and there is no way to do it other than to take the time. If you are really young, just think about when you are 20. Do you really want to be 20 and still be trying to make your way through high school someday? Could you imagine being this old man around a bunch of kids and they have their futures ahead of them, and you are hoping to someday graduate? That is why when you are young you have to think about the future. There are a lot of things that are outside of your control, but there are also a lot of things that you have full control over. Every day you go to school and you make the decision about whether to be a good student or a terrible student or somewhere in between, and that decision does not seem like it means much now, but it will in the future. At 30 there was a silent revolution for my entire generation. Any of us that turned 30, for whatever reason, decided to take that moment to look back on what we built and find out if we had wasted our lives to that point. There were some people who had accomplished a lot. They had careers and families and accomplishments. However, there were a lot of people who opened their eyes on their 30th birthday and realized that they just parted a decade of their lives away, and they had absolutely nothing to show for it. For a lot of people this induced panic. They felt like somehow they had to start trying to make up for it. A whole bunch of middle-aged college students trying desperately to make something of their lives before it is too late. Then think about it when you are 20. It seems like your life will be like this forever, but it really will not. For a woman in your 20s, you might think the world is always going to be there to help lend you a helping hand. But the fact of the matter is right now you are getting the biggest undeserved boost that you will ever get in your life. Someday you are going to be 30, and maybe you won't regret it then. But eventually you are going to hit the wall, and probably hit 40, and by then nobody cares about how beautiful some old lady used to be. At that point, what really matters is what you have built along the way will come back to you. For men, a lot of you might think that the world is unfair, and no one cares about you and you are not going to ever get a helping hand. To an extent that might be true, but that is why it is so important in your 20s to start building something. I am approaching 40 as I write this, and it happened little by little over the course of 10 years or 20 years. But every single job that I did, every single task on every single job, I was building competence. And I was building people's level of respect for me and what I do. And today I can say that I'm reasonably successful. I got some unexpected wins, but I also had a lot of unexpected failures. Part of the process was succeeding and failing and keeping my nose to the grindstone, and working hard to get to where I am. There are a lot of men who see that they do not have anything when they turn 20, and they assume that this is just going to be the way things are forever. Because of that, they squander their precious time in the years of their lives where their physical body and their mental acuity is at its peak. And eventually they turn 40. And there are so many jobs out there that pay pretty good money, and they are completely locked out of that market because they spent their 20s and maybe their 30s doing meaningless things. At 40, I think there is another reckoning. You are sitting there with whatever life you have built for yourself, and the cohort ahead of you is starting to die. You are realizing that you won't be around forever, and you certainly do not want to be working until you are dead. But that point, when you approach it, has already been set in stone. How you have led your life to that moment has already decided what the remainder of your life is going to look like. There are a lot of young people who make a bad decision in their 20s, and throughout the rest of their 20s they keep on saying that they do not regret that bad decision or those bad decisions. What they do not realize is, you're not in your 20s forever. Eventually, and it happens way faster than anyone expects, you have reached 60. For most people you have reached a point where even if you like your career, you are getting old enough that you do not really want to take the crap of a day-to-day job anymore. I know a lot of people who turned 60 and you could just tell. They were just getting sick of working, they were getting sick of all the rules. They were getting sick of being told what to do. They just wanted to be able to go out and live their lives however they want without some boss telling them to show up here at 8 tomorrow. That moment when you turn 60 is the accumulation of everything that you have done. If you have built a career, or you have built a long-term marriage with somebody who has a career, then at that point you can make the decision to say, okay, that is it, I'm done. For a lot of people in my generation, they are going to reach 60. Their bodies are going to be aching, They are going to be slower mentally than they used to be. They are going to be crotchety and cantankerous, and they are just not going to want to be coming to work anymore. But they never bought a house, they never saved a pension, they do not have a retirement plan, and so they just have to keep working well after they really do not want to be. The other thing is, if you reach 60 and you do not have any kind of decent career, then you are not working very nice jobs for a 60-year-old body. You are probably going to be resenting the 25-year-old who is your boss, who's sitting there ordering you around like he's somehow important. Even later, maybe you will hit 80. By 80 there is just no way that you are doing real work. If you set yourself up to live in poverty, then you are eating dog food. The government gives you a pittance, but it is not enough to live on for real. Not if you have not built anything, and you are watching your friends die one by one. And if you never raised a family, you are getting awfully lonely because that family consists of the only people left who have a reason to care about you. Now finally, imagine that you are one of the few who hits 100. If you are an esteemed family matriarch or patriarch, then maybe you are held with respect by multiple generations of your offspring and their offspring and their offspring's offspring. Very few people make it past this point, but that moment of your death, and the moments leading up to it, are going to be defined completely by what you have built. If you have built relationships with your family over a lifetime, then you may be surrounded by loved ones in your final moments. Otherwise, you might be all alone, starving, freezing because you have forgotten how to pay the heating bill, or you just do not have the money for it, living in squalor because you just do not have the energy to deal with the growing mess around you. You will reach out in those final moments for a reassuring hand that will never ever come, because you never built that. Now imagine after you have gone, and the legacy that you leave behind. What sort of people are your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, if any of those generations exist at all? Your works, what did they amount to? Is there something out there in the world that exists solely because you put the effort in? Or did the fruits of your labor end the moment that the family whose groceries you bagged got home and unbagged the groceries? The home you leave behind, will it remain as a monument to your industriousness? A wonderful home that a new family is happy to move into? Will people generations down the line move into your house and be impressed with the workmanship? Or will the landlord have to close it up and condemn it once you are gone, then spend 6 months fumigating and weeks pulling garbage and trash out of the place, and that is the final time that someone thinks of you? That disgusting hoarding old thing that died and left this burden for me. I am painting a terrifying image of what can happen if you do not build something, but imagine on the other hand what could happen if you do build something. You work hard in your 20s, you nurture what you have in your 30s, you build upon what you have built in your 40s. You save up in your 50s, and you have a grand retirement for the remainder of your life where you get to pass your accumulated wisdom and values on to generations to come, and it is all a pretty good time. Maybe out of respect for what you have built, the family hangs on to the family home once you are gone, and it stays in the family for several generations as an asset. Not a financial one as much as this place that people can go. Imagine that you spend the time with your kids, grandkids and your great-grandkids, and they grow up to be great people who go off to do wonderful things and make the world a better place, and your name is remembered as the great matriarch or patriarch who led the family to great things. Imagine if your works stand for generations. Maybe you have built some amazing structure or some wonderful piece of art. Maybe you put some design into an industrial plant or a consumer product that lasts and becomes something influential long after you are gone. Especially now that we are reaching an age that for over 100 years, we have had recordings of video and audio, and for at least the last 60 years we have had very high fidelity video and audio. Kids these days can grow up listening to the music of bands whose members have all died of old age. Culture is at the precipice of something terrifying and incredible, and you can be a part of that if you build something timeless. From this point of view of everything that I have written so far, I see a lot of younger people or a lot of people my age who haven't really built anything, and I'm not mad at them for it. I'm just sad. Somebody at some point told them that none of it matters. In reality, life is so long, and the world keeps turning after you are done, and the only evidence that you have ever existed is what you have built to last. Those people who think nothing, who don't build anything, it is not going to be long until they wake up and realize that they have nothing. They will pretend that it does not bother them, but the tragedy will already be in motion. Thanks for listening to this chapter of the Graysonian Ethic, Lessons for My Unborn Son. If you like the book and would like a physical copy or an electronic copy, please look it up. It's available on Amazon around the world. Barring that, please like and share with others. I'll be releasing one chapter every week, so if it hasn't been completely released. If you're interested in hearing more, you can subscribe to see when I post additional chapters.